As always, we're keeping the programming moving along. We got Stefan Verstappen joining us here right now. And listen, he's been doing shows with us for years. I mean, he's done radio with us. He's done web conferences with us. He's done it all. He's been there, done that with us. And I think today the top choice is going to be evade and escape, I believe. We're going to rip through some of the latest headlines probably for the first 20 minutes or so. Then we'll get into that topic because there's an awful lot that's popped up even here over the last day or two that I want to kind of pick the brain of our guest here today, because it ties into prepping and ultimately what I just kind of call this transition, which is up ahead, which I think many of us would argue it's well underway. So having said that, Stefan, thank you so much for joining us. I guess the first thing we should ask is how you've been doing, and how has Canada been? Is Trudeau treating you nicely up there?
Oh yeah, Trudeau cares about us. He just loves the Canadian people. He raised the carbon tax because he loves us so much.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, because he's saving the planet, and the only way we can possibly save the planet is to pay lots more money to the government, because that's
how we're going to do it. Yeah.
That's how we're going to do it. So that's the answer to everything. You want to end homelessness, pay more money to the government, and you want to feed your family, well, pay more money to the government. So yeah, Trudeau's doing everything he can to make sure that Canadians are happy and healthy.
Right, that's it.
Yeah,
no, it's very interesting. The climate change thing is very huge. I had one of the biggest. His name's Mark Morano. He's done all kinds of major media interviews on like Fox, and I think he's been on Alex Jones and like everywhere. But I mean, I would say he's the best when you're kind of like breaking down the whole climate change sense of what they're trying to do. And we did a show yesterday, man. What they have planned for us right around the corner is crazy. I'll just give you a few of them. They're going to have laws in place to where you can only buy 3 new articles of clothing a year. I mean, he was showing me all these documents, too. It's not like Mark was making this stuff up. And the funniest one to me is these cooling centers. As it gets hotter and hotter, they're going to, I guess, send out the vans and come pick you up from your house and send you off to these cooling centers. So I was like, no, thank you. But I'm telling you, man, it is, like I call them the climateers, like the Disney, remember the Mouseketeers? The climateers. But yeah, it's crazy out there, buddy. But I know your topic for today is evade and escape, but I was hoping we could jump through a few hoops here.
Sure, whatever you want to talk about, Eric.
Yeah. Now, I mean, this first one here is a growing problem, not only with banks in Europe. I mean, there's a lot of banks, since the last time we talked about, they're just closing down branches, but there was a headline here this morning. I'll talk about it tomorrow night on my solo show. But why are U.S. banks abruptly freezing accounts and halting withdrawals without warning or explanation? And so, some of the major banks are the ones that we're just kind of used to. Chase Bank. I remember going on TikTok, Stefan, about 3 days ago, and there was a farmer up in Indiana, so kind of getting closer up to your area. He woke up one morning, and the IRS put a levy on his account. No questions asked. They just said he owed taxes, even though he didn't, and they just pulled all his money out of his account. And the last time I checked, because I've been following up on this, he still has no money in there. I mean, poor guy's bankrupt now. They still haven't given him a proper explanation. No due process, no audit, right? They just pulled his money out. And so I just keep reiterating people who have farmland or who are off grid like that, you got to be really careful, because I think they're going to go after people like that first, because they know they've got to get the agricultural side. But I don't know, your thoughts in regards to, have you hearing any stories up in Canada? I mean, we know what happened during the whole freedom movement thing, but anything recent up there?
Well, nothing recent, but I don't know what people don't understand about banks and governments. They can do whatever the hell they want, and there's nothing you can do about it. Nothing you can do about it. The bank's sort of been playing nice, but at any time they can take your money, close down your account, and you can go whistle. You have no legal options. The banks control the legal system. So there's nothing you can do about it, and it just shows you how vulnerable we are to these institutions. They can get away literally with murder. They have been getting away with murder. Look at the medical industry right now, or in the past 3 years, murdering millions of people. Has anybody gone to jail? Has anybody been charged? Has anybody got a slap on the wrist for all these deaths and disease and destruction that they've inflicted on innocent people and young athletes and children? No, nothing happens to them. So, folks, you got to understand, this is why, I've been promoting building your own independent communities that will eventually form their own banking and monetary systems. Because so long as we are subject to these big institutions, they can do whatever they want to us. Now, I remember back when I was a kid, my mother went to the bank and found her bank account completely emptied out. It turned out that Revenue Canada, which is Canada's version of the IRS, assessed her for owing back taxes, and so they cleaned out her bank account. Now, turns out she didn't owe those back taxes, but you think you have some sort of rule of law where you're innocent until proven guilty. Well, you're not. You're guilty until proven innocent. And so the government of Canada closed down her bank accounts, took all her money, and that left us with no money to pay the rent or buy food or anything, right? Nothing. And then, so it is up to you, or it was up to my mother, to prove her innocence. And that took 6 months of paperwork and running around and going to people. And finally, they gave the money back that they had taken. But yeah, that's a lot of good. So for 6 months, we're absolutely poor, have no money in the bank, can't pay the rent, can't buy food, and it's up to you to prove you're innocent. So I learned way back then, I must have been about 13 years old. I knew then that there is no defense against the government, there's no defense against the banks. The other thing back then that the Canadian government did, I'm not kidding, they would go into people's houses. They would break in. They would just break down the door. Revenue Canada officers, they would go in there and they would take out fur coats. And they they would take out fur coats and jewelry. And they even took one of the kids' piggy banks. This was
that like collateral or something? They just randomly doing that, or was it?
They're accused of not paying enough tax, right? And we think you owe taxes, so rather than take you to court, rather than prove our case, rather than submit evidence and all that, no, we're just going to kick in your door. We're going to take your jewelry, your fur coats. Oh, is that your 8-year-old's piggy bank there? Is there a few quarters in there? We're going to take that too. I'm not kidding, Eric. They did that. And this was 40 years ago, folks. They were doing this 40 years. Well, there was a big stink about it in the newspapers. Revenue Canada going in and stealing people's personal belongings. And so they stopped the practice. Now, there's no law passed to prevent them from doing it again. Nobody went to jail. Nobody was prosecuted. So the law is still on the books, but because they were getting bad publicity, they kind of had to back off. I mean, stealing children's piggy banks, for crying out loud. The government stealing the kids' piggy banks. That was, a bad image for them. So they pulled back on that, but at any time, folks, at any time, they could come back. They could say, oh, Eric, you know what? We think you owe us $20,000 in taxes. So kick in your door, go steal everything you've got in your house, haul it out to the truck, and off they go. And what are you going to do about it? And close down your bank account. We already seen with the Freedom Truckers here how fast that happened. Not only did they take their bank accounts, they also took down all their crowdfunding sites. I think it was GoFundMe, I think it was.
They did.
And GoFundMe cooperated with them, which is why I will not use GoFundMe ever again.
I stopped using them.
Yeah, I stopped using them. After that I went, what, really? You just took these people's money for no reason whatsoever because the government told you to? Yeah, you're not our friend, okay? We can't trust you. But you can't trust anybody, folks. That's why I keep saying, form your own communities. Source your own food, source your own wealth, start up micro businesses that you work on together and you can earn money, and then if need be, you barter. But whatever we can do to avoid the big corporations and the big institutions, especially the banks, you have nothing to say about the banks. They can do with you whatever they want.
Yeah. I mean, the only solution, in talking about this with other people and just a few people in the community too as well. I've got a few more people on board with some of the stuff that I've been saying. A guy across the street from me actually. Um, forming the communities too. But then you're gonna have to have like everyone's back. You know what I mean? Like if we could sit here and be like all talk like, okay, they show up into our neck of the woods, but like if we really don't do anything, or we don't really resist and say like, get the hell out of here type of thing with guns drawn, then they're just going to start carting people off or do what you said. Like we got IRS agents coming that are going to be armed. Like, so they're probably going to do what Canada Revenue did back in the day. They're probably going to start doing that here. So, but if you've got everyone sort of on board and you could show up at, wherever these agents are going to be, and you got 50 to 100 strong or something, you'd be like, you better get the hell out of here and not ever show up again. That's the only way I see this happening, because they're not going to stop. You know what I mean? Like, they're not going to be like, oh, okay, yeah, we're just going to stop now all of a sudden. So, and that's why I keep saying is 10 years ago, it's going to be a conflict in the end. It's going to end in blood, and we're going to have to fight. And it wasn't a popular opinion, but as each day moves along, Stefan, I think we're approaching that midnight hour. It's going to be put up or shut up time.
Yeah, well, listen, I've read a lot of history. You think this ends without bloodshed? It doesn't. It doesn't. It always has to involve a lot of bloodshed. People will kill and die. And like, I'm not inciting violence. I'm not.
Right. We're just going to defend what's ours, I mean,
yeah, but the thing is, my research of history, did any tyrant ever willingly give up power? No.
Or exactly, yeah.
Did any government ever willingly step down and relinquish power? Never. So you think that, oh, well, we're going to protest, we're going to vote, we're going to resist that way, and then the government will say, oh, well, look, they're all protesting. Okay, let's quit our jobs, give back all the money we stole, and we'll go into retirement.
right.
No, what always happens is finally the people have been so exploited and so abused, and they fight back in rage and indignation, and they kill a lot of people. And then they go after the tyrants. Look at Mussolini, what they did to him. What happened to Mussolini should happen to everybody in Congress and the White House right now. It should have happened already 40 years ago. Because don't forget, this didn't all happen in the last couple of years. This has been a slow burn. Yeah, for 50 years, and we should have bastards up already a long time ago. But anyways, it's not going to end peacefully. But yeah, what you're saying is, okay, so our community has a plan for that, all right? We have a security team. Now, our security team consists of 2 squads. One squad in our area here, there's another squad in a neighboring jurisdiction. There's 2 counties. I'm in one county, and a sister community is in another county. We work together on a lot of things. They come to our picnics. They come to my first aid workshops and my martial arts lessons. But we do have, armed men, and we have squads, and we have radio communication. So the idea is, if there's something, and what we're planning on is not so much government forces, because I always tell people, like, forget about fighting against government forces. You're not going to win that, ever. 6 guys in the bushes with an AR-15 is no match for a helicopter gunship. But what we are mostly concerned about is gangs of looters coming out from the city, because we know that happens. We've read what happened in Venezuela. We read what happened in Herzegovina. That those people that did have small farms out in the countryside, they were attacked first, and they were attacked by gangs from the city. They were organized crime. Well, some of them were attacked by the government, and they were just, acting the same as the gangs were, which is, shoot whoever resists and then steal what they got. So our concern is with organized gangs coming up. Now, we've got a couple of big cities within, a 2.5-hour drive, like Detroit is a 2.5 hour. Right? Yeah. And Toronto, and and there's a lot of
a lot of immigrants,
a lot of diversity there. So for them, and look, you think they don't know the food is up in farm country? You,
Right,
you
exactly.
think they don't know that the people that are most likely going to survive what's coming are the farmers and the rural folk? And so, what's to prevent 50 of them jumping in vans and with their AK-47s and driving up to your small town? Now, if we had 30 gang members arrive in our small town, that town is done because most people are not prepared to fight back. So, 30 Crips from Detroit could take over this town in 2 hours and then rob it,
Yeah.
rob it head to toe and then take off. So, our community has a rough plan in place, but we haven't practiced it. We haven't worked out all the small details. But because many of our members are farmers, and the people that we deal with are the local farmers, because we buy from them. We don't buy from the grocery store. We buy direct from the farmers markets and farmers distribution outlets. So we bypass the grocery store. But let's say one of our members who owns a farm, has 20 guys arrive on his property. Well, he gets on the radio. He calls it. We all tune in on this stuff, and then that would mobilize our security team, and we can immediately send out a squad from our county to go to the farm and offer backup, and we can also contact the team at the county over, and they could send out a squad, and we're all armed and we're ready to go. And my theory is that if they are laying siege to a farmhouse, all right, the gangs. So they're on the outside, the farmer's on the inside, returning fire as best he can. But when you're in a defensive position, you think that you're safe being inside the farmhouse and shooting through the window. The problem is, what often happens is you get burned out. One guy sneaks in with a Molotov cocktail, sets fire to the roof of your house, and then you're screwed. So, because you have to get out of the house, and then they shoot you as you run out the door. Very common tactic, happened all through the Wild West, happened all through every war. You got some guys holed up in the house, burn them out. Very simple. So, the idea then is for our security team, our squads, to come up behind the seizures, the attackers, and they won't be expecting it. They're getting fire from the farmhouse. So they're ducking down behind their vehicles, and suddenly there's 4 guys behind them that open fire.
Yeah.
Right? So we catch them by surprise. We catch them in a pincer movement. We catch them with a crossfire. And if they are just, like if it's a trained professional military force, they would know how to react to that. They're still at a big disadvantage, but they would still have some training on how to react to that. But if we're talking dumbass gangsters from Detroit, they're going to panic and flee. And as we know from military strategy, a fleeing enemy is the most vulnerable. That's why the Mongols and the Apache and the Comanches and all, once the people start running, they go after them and they mow them down. And so if we can come up behind, these attackers, surprise them, catch them by surprise, make them really nervous because now they're taking fire from 2 directions. Once they start running, then we'll go after them, pick them off, make sure none of them get back to Detroit alive. And that's what we've got. It's not the best solution. Would I like to have, 50-man division or something like that? Yeah, sure. But we can't do that. We can't do that.
Yeah, each area is going to be a little bit different. Another area I want to hit, Stefan, today, because we still got a little bit of summer left. I'm not sure when your summer season ends up there. I really don't know. But here, it's still a little bit hot. With the heat index or whatnot, makes it a little uncomfortable, but not too crazy. But in certain areas, it is getting dangerously hot, like places like Phoenix and something like places like that. You got any ways that people can stay cool outside of the norm, outside of sitting down and popping like the air conditioner on, like maybe 3 or 4 different ways that people can stay cool thinking kind of outside of the box. Because we know in the future, I mean, my goodness, they're going to shut off our electricity. Anyone who doesn't go along with this B system. So I've been telling my folks to get prepared for that. But what are some different ways we can kind of stay cool before we turn into a worldwide nudist camp or something? We gotta keep our clothes on.
Well, you're being really hopeful there, Eric. 3 or 4 different ways to stay cool. No, there are not 3 or 4 ways to stay cool. There just is.
Okay.
There isn't.
No.
Cooling is like heat. Staying warm, yeah, there's lots of options to stay warm, But cooling is a whole different story, and there aren't a lot of options to stay cool. Well, go swimming. There's an option.
Yeah. Hang out in your bathtub.
Yeah, get in the bathtub. That's an option. Wet your clothes. That's an option. It's been hotter than hell here, too, and humid. So, but when I get on my bicycle, it was a couple of times I had a little shower, so I got wet. And then the breeze from bicycling and the wet clothes, boy, I was nice and cool. So, yeah, you can wet your clothes, you can get in the bathtub, you can go swimming. Of course, shade is an obvious one. Without electricity, fans aren't a great, it isn't an option. I don't have an air conditioner, but I have the fan blowing on me all day while I'm sitting here.
You got battery ones? I got some battery powered fans.
Yeah, I've got, I know some of those battery-powered fans. They're not very powerful. They're not great.
No, they're not.
And then, of course, how much time do you have on that battery when you've got, 6 weeks of hot weather? So, but it's sunny, so hopefully you'll have a solar panel that you can use to regenerate the batteries. Basically,
they have rechargeable batteries too. I bought that last year on Amazon. I don't know how well it works. I haven't actually really tried it, but it's a little bit expensive. But you get like a representation of all the batteries, like A, AAA, whatever, D, whatever, 9-volt and all that stuff, and then it comes with like a little rechargeable kit. But again, I don't know. I mean, it's scored very high on Amazon, but I haven't tried it yet, so I don't know if you've ever tried one of those. But they do have rechargeable batteries.
Yeah, no, I stick to AA batteries for everything. So I don't have AAA. I don't have 9-volt batteries. I don't have D or C cell batteries. It's AAA. AA batteries for everything, because AA is what works in my ham radio. It's what works in my walkie-talkie, and it's what works in my emergency radio. It's what works for my flashlights. So I did it on purpose. Anytime I bought electrical equipment, like if I bought a flashlight, I would make sure it took AA batteries. And so I stocked up on rechargeable AA batteries because they will power all my stuff. And my solar charger is for AA batteries. So, and anyways, I know the mix and match pack, but if you can, try to make sure all your stuff runs on one type of battery, and then you're not fiddling around with 3-4 different batteries, wondering which one's charged, which one's not. And, I have the same charger for all the AA, so I can charge 6 at a time. But that's what I would do for that. The only other thing to stay cool is what they call a swamp cooler. And a swamp cooler is if you're out in the woods and you've got some food and you need to keep that food like as cool as possible to prevent it from going bad, then you hang that in a tree. So let's say it's in a wooden box. Now, when I was young, when we went out into the forest, when we went on our expeditions, we kept all our food in a wooden box with a forehead strap. So you could carry, and usually that wooden box, because it's got all the food in it, got pretty heavy. It got, 50, 60 pounds easy. But you could carry it very easily using a forehead strap. Do you know what those are like?
I do not, actually.
Okay, so you got the box, and you got a big leather strap, and in the middle of the strap, it widens up a little bit. And then what you do is you put that box on your back. So the bottom of the box is just around your lumbar area, and then that strap goes over your forehead.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay.
Right? So now you think, well, it's a 60-pound box of food. It's really going to cause havoc on your neck. But no, it doesn't. What happens is because of the weight, it's easier for you to walk bent forward. Like if you stand up, it's going to pull you over backwards off your feet. Right? So you bend at like 30 degrees at the waist and you walk forward. Now the weight of that box goes directly into your hips, and there's almost no pressure on your forehead. And that's the way the old trappers used to move things as well. The voyageurs of Canada, the original mountain men. And you can see old paintings of them, and that's how they're carrying the beaver pelts and things like that, with a forehead strap. So you would take that box, hang it in a tree, then above the box, say a foot, maybe a foot and a half above the box, you tie a sheet to a string, and you allow the sheet to drape down over the box and down past the box, and at the bottom where the sheet comes closest to the ground, you sink that sheet, or you allow that sheet to fall into a bucket of water. And that's what they call a swamp cooler. So what happens is the water is constantly trickled up through the sheet, and again, you need like a cotton sheet, like a plastic sheet won't do. And it will trickle up through the sheet like a wick, like a wax with wick. And as it evaporates, underneath will be cooler than the outside. So it's the same principle as wetting your clothes. You'll feel cooler because as the water evaporates, it will cool down underneath your clothes, so you will be cooler. But if you needed to keep something else cool and there was nothing else, then a swamp cooler, again, a sheet tied over a box. You got to give it a little bit of room at the top of the box and the sheet, right, like a foot, 2 feet, and then drape that down and put the ends of the sheets in water. It will draw the water up into the sheet, and it will evaporate, and it will keep, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 degrees cooler than the outside. And again, better than nothing, but Eric, there are no good answers to keeping cool. Now, the other thing is a fan, a handheld fan, like a Chinese folding fan. So that will keep you cool. I mean, I used that when I lived in China for a while. Everybody had a fan. And now, I read it, and I don't know if it's true, but what I read was that the physical action of fanning yourself generates more heat than the fan will cool. So
burning a lot of calories, too.
Yeah, well, not that many calories. You're just holding in your wrist. So I read that somewhere. I don't believe it's true. You feel better fanning your forehead with a fan than nothing at all. So that's about it.
Get your cat to do it.
Huh? Yeah.
Get your cat to fan. Train him to fan you. Yeah, no, good stuff. This other one too. We'll go on the medical side. I promise we'll get a few minutes. In a few minutes, we'll get.
Yeah, no problem. We could talk about whatever you want, Eric, for as long as you like.
But this one was huge. A lot of people were talking about this in alternative media. I saw quite a few people talking about this on TikTok too. There was a cyber attack. Not sure if you saw this upon a bunch of hospitals here in 5 states: Texas, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Pennsylvania, and California. And basically, a lot of people that were already in the hospitals, they had to move them like elsewhere, especially like in the ER department. So I gotta think, more. We're gonna see more of these headlines, and of course, whoever they're gonna blame, Russia, China, or whoever they're gonna come up with. So the point is, and I keep telling my folks, like, you better have on the medical side of things, like, you better be ready to rock and roll, because I mean, I know I haven't been relying upon going to the hospital in like 20 years. I mean, God willing, I don't have to. I do need to get to the dentist though here soon before crap hits the fan and get a few things done. But on the medical side of things, what would you consider there, like, as having a part of your, I don't know, just basic medical supplies if you haven't started yet?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of information on the internet on how to put together first aid kits and medical kits and trauma kits. And, we, in our community here, we have a medical team. They're a very good medical team. We've got herbalists, people that grow their own medicinal herbs and make their own medicinal medicines. We've got 4 nurses. And For those who don't know the medical industry, nurses do everything. Doctors don't do shit.
Yeah, mom was a nurse.
Yeah, my doctor friend said the same thing. He says, you know what I do in the emergency room all day? I said, what? He says, type in insurance codes into the computer. Because for every injury, there's an insurance code, and you got to type it in so that they know how to bill them and all that. That's what the doctor does. And he says, you know who does all the work? I said, who? He says, the nurses. They're the ones that treat them. They're the ones that intubate them. They're the ones that check their blood pressure. They're the ones that, So nurses are great to have, and we've got 4 nurses on our medical team, and that's the equivalent to 2 doctors, okay? And we've got a veterinarian, we've got a Chinese medical doctor. So we have been working for the past 8 months and putting together really robust medical kits, and we're putting together 3 of them, and we stationed those kits at different small towns spread out across the county, so that if anyone ever got seriously injured, or if there was a major disaster with a lot of injuries, then members of our community know where these kits are held. They're usually in the homes of people that are on our medical teams. They can go to those homes, and they know that they will receive treatment there, because there'll be a nurse or a vet or a first responder, and they'll have the medical equipment there. So members of our community know, okay, we can go there. And again, we have a count, and I was just looking at the map the other day, and there's like 20 small towns. I mean, just tiny little towns. Every 10 miles there's a crossroad, and well, that's a town. So it's a little bit more complicated for us to ensure that we have medical supplies spread out. But we now have like a really good medical kit within 10 miles of everybody in the community, right? You don't have to go more than 10 miles to get to one of our first aid stations. So we've set that up. The other thing, too, is in addition to my first aid courses and trauma courses, we also had courses in home nursing. So the nurses got together, they put on the workshops, and how to take care of people in the home when they're sick and injured. So the trauma kits also reflect not just emergency medical supplies, but also supplies for long-term medical illness, home nursing in effect. So, I haven't been to a doctor in 40 years. Eric, I won't go to a doctor. You couldn't pay me to go to a doctor.
Right. Did you get more sick?
Yeah, no, I haven't.
Last time I went down in Raleigh, man, I went from taking one blood pressure pill to like 6 different pills, and I was just all kinds of mess.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's all it's about. It's money, and you go from one symptom to the next. It's just work around a circle. So yeah, I mean, I've said this. I'm probably gonna die on a couch next to my dog. That's probably what's gonna happen.
Well, that'd be a wonderful way to go. That's a wonderful way to go.
It really would be. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that'd be the best way to go. Sleeping on the couch with the dog. Yeah, perfect. So, but yeah, the medical system, I did have to go to a hospital when I got into a bicycle accident about 10 years ago. I was bicycling and some crazy woman T-boned me. I don't know how you could T-bone me. And I was doing a pretty good clip, so I went flying. Got a gash on my forehead, but not too bad. It wasn't too bad. But I thought I dislocated my shoulder. So I had to go to the hospital, and they took an x-ray, and it wasn't dislocated, so I went home.
Okay.
But for trauma like that, broken bone, car accident, okay, yeah, then the hospital might do some... Yeah.
Something.
But if you've got a lump somewhere, going to the doctor's not going to help, because they're going to right away send you to an oncologist, and oncologists, all they know how to do is cut, burn, and poison. And no, there's all kinds of alternatives, especially for many of the diseases we suffer from.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
There's so many natural cures.
Yeah, I got a book on that too. That was one of the prepper books I picked up, and I forget the name of it. Like it basically tells you like if you have this, and then it gives you like a list of like the different types of herbals, that you could potentially take. So I've been buying up all kinds of herbal stuff like the last years, even stuff you can find here in Ohio. Like we got a lot of creeping Charlie and like all those different kinds of stuff growing, like basically in the backyard, chamomile, all that good stuff. So yeah. Now, you want to talk a little evade and escape. We've got hope. Can we cram it in 10 to 15 minutes, or do you want to save it for the next show?
Well, let's save that for the next show because escape and evade is like, it's a big topic, right?
Yeah.
So
I want to give it some good time on that.
yeah, I could only scratch the surface on escape and evade. It's from my book, The Art of Urban Survival, and I've mentioned this a couple of times, but I don't know if I mentioned it with your show, but that book is actually a prophecy. It's a prediction. I knew how things were going to go down, and I wrote the book in order of how things will deteriorate and offering solutions. So the very first chapter is psychopaths, because and we've talked about that, defense against the psychopath. My viral YouTube video, defense against the psychopath, will explain why the world is as effed up as it is. It's because it's run by psychopaths. This is how they operate. This is how they think. This is how they infiltrate and subvert a country and destroy it from within. Psychopaths. So the very first chapter is how to understand psychopaths, because at the downfall of every civilization, the first thing you'll notice is there's more psychopaths than ever before. I don't know why that is, whether the bad times that lead up to the collapse of civilization generates more psychopaths, or that the inevitable scarcity that people face as we go into the decline turns them into psychopaths, or there's some cosmic, godlike principle at work that produces more psychopaths during the end time. I don't know what it is, but there's more psychopaths. And then we go through the book. Next chapter is on lies and how to detect when people are lying.
Only that one, right?
Absolutely, because
I've had enough ex-girlfriends. Could write a whole book on that.
well, as evidence for that is, look at where we live now. Everything is a lie. All of it. Everything. All of it. The politics, the science, the medicine. We went to the moon.
Right, yeah, we went to the moon. That's the best one.
So many people were killed in World War II. All of it. Everything was a lie, right?
Yeah.
And so, well, you got to learn how to spot the lies, because if I started off wanting to become enlightened. This is a goal I've had since I was 12 years old. Become enlightened, right? Okay, well, guess what? Before you can become enlightened, you have to disabuse yourself of everything that is false. You want to know what is true, what is real, what is, godlike? Well, get rid of all the stuff that clouds that up. Get rid of all the lies and the deceptions and the mind control and, the indoctrination. You can't become enlightened if you're indoctrinated. So the first thing you have to do is rid yourself of all of the lies. And now I go back to Aristotle. The wise man is one who says he knows nothing. That's my approach to, I don't know anything. I don't know anything, Eric. I've got opinions and I've got hunches, but to say I truly know this, that, and the other only applies in very few cases. I truly know how to canoe, right?
Right.
I truly know how to build a fire. I truly know how to reload my rifle. But when you're talking about, politics and philosophy and the way the world works, probably everything you've been taught is a lie. So, lies and deception, we got to break through that. Clear yourself of all the stuff. It's really simple. Just say, I don't know. It's not so hard. I don't know what the big problem is. Or, I was wrong about that. I didn't have all the information. I came to the wrong conclusion. Now I have some more information, and I'm reassessing my opinion on the subject. That's all it is, That's
Yeah.
everybody says follow the science. Well, there's science for you right there. A scientist might have a theory, and he might have some evidence to support that theory, but a true scientist will always change that theory if better evidence comes in. I was wrong.
You gotta try it. Yeah.
These latest experiments showed that happened. Well, then I stand corrected. My mistake.
Yeah, and that's what the problem is with our hour too. Like with especially on the science side, is like if you've got a bunch of BS artists out there and they're not being truthful with you, they could just make up anything. Oh yeah, I ran the test and this is what we got. Like with the vaccines, remember when the vaccines first came out? 89% efficacy. We're trying it out right now, and like every month went by, it would drop down to like 40%. Now they're saying, hey, we don't even know if it worked for COVID. So it's like you can't trust anyone. I mean, it really does come down to trust, and the New World Order keeps telling us to trust the plan, trust the system, trust man, trust this person. Like, nah. I mean, from us, from a Catholic perspective, Scripture says don't even trust yourself.
No.
Don't trust man. Don't even trust yourself. So, and then also Christ said in Matthew 24, a hallmark sign of the last days is deception. He said that think if it were possible that even the elect might be deceived.
Yeah,
like people who should know better, and I see that amongst the vast majority of Christians. I'd argue 9 out of 10 of them have like no idea, like they're totally disconnected with reality.
Well, the churches have been subverted already for a long time.
Right, for a long time. Yeah,
they've been infiltrated, and they've been taught to not teach that part of the Bible.
Right. Yeah. Minus that part. Yeah. All right, buddy. Anything else we can add before we let you go? Got to get running here, but man, we always appreciate your thoughts, and another great show. We'll do Evade and Escape next time.
Yeah. Okay. So, anyways, the book goes through all the stages of collapse. Crime, natural disasters, pandemics and plagues, corruption, martial law, war. But the last chapter is the last thing that you may have to face, and that is escape and evade. Eventually, hopefully not, but it's quite possible, and usually this is the way it goes, in the end, security forces will be coming for you. Well, especially if you are so outrageous as to grow a garden in your backyard. Oh, my God.
Right.
Well, yeah, the SWAT team will be lowered from ropes from helicopters.
Right, they'll eat it right in front of you.
Yep, they'll take out their machine guns and shoot up your tomato plant, and then they'll grab you and your kids. So the final strategy of surviving all of this, if it comes down to that, and it may come down to it, okay, it may, and that is escape and evade. You now have the government after you, and they want to find you, they want to incarcerate you, and then they want to send you someplace where they can leisurely torture you for months before killing you.
Oh, for sure.
Sure. No, listen, I won't let them take me alive because I know what happens in those camps. So, I'd rather, like, you want to die on the couch with your dog, great. But if they're about to haul me to one of the re-education or FEMA camps or quarantine camps, before they do that, I would stand my ground on the front porch with my shotgun and let them shoot me, because you do not want to be taken to these camps. You have no idea what they do to you there, because they're leftists. You have no idea how evil leftists and communists are. So don't let them take you alive. That brings us to escape and evade. You, rather than stand your ground and get shot, the final option you have is put on a backpack, grab whatever you can, head to the woods, and keep running. That's escape and evade.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, no, I'm right there with you, buddy. I'm not. Yeah, I'm definitely not going to no camp or smart city or any of that stuff. So, but listen, folks, we have another great show. I got to work on an article. I've just got an idea that I want to work on here, so I want to get that up here soon. But we got Stefan joining us here again next month, and again, folks. Consultation program. I'm available today. Please help out with general donations. Until next time, stay safe and God bless.
I'd like to thank everyone that listened to the end. I have been shadow banned, and my income has dropped dramatically. So I'm asking you a favor. Please share my videos with your friends. Links below. Thank you.